driving. Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Good afternoon. Hello, hello. This is the way. Hi, Ingrid. Sometimes I look at this and sometimes I'm like, sometimes I wish I center more than I am live. And I wonder sometimes if I'm bugging you. I know I'm probably not, but it's part of who I am. And so we're going to be talking about mental health. And the effects, kind of what I've gone through. I'm going to wait just a minute or two for people to get on and we'll get started with it. It's a nice cool day here in Colorado. I should be mowing the lawn, but I don't feel like it. That went down the wrong pipe. Sorry about that. All right. Close the door. It's actually a little warm in here, so I'm going to open my fancy new window. So, see how this works. Yeah. Nice, cool breeze coming in. That's nice, man. So they put in this emergency window. This is what the whole fuss was about. So they put in that emergency window. So I had to move the office and all the other stuff. But it's required that we have it in there. It wasn't going to be done in a month, but they had space open, so I guess we got it done. And that's done. Here's the 3-minute mark. Welcome to a Daily Trudge. I'm going to be talking. I'm going to be your host. Here, please say hello. And if you feel like this video might help other people, please share it. I'll put on the ticker because I'm not sure how to start this. I might as well just start at the beginning. From my earliest days, I can always remember I never had any friends. Sleepovers were a no-go for me because I was a bedwetter until I was 11 or 12. As you get older, you tend to forget stuff. Dates and times, I do anyway. And so I didn't have many sleepovers. But even if that didn't happen, I don't think I don't know that I really would have anyway. You know, I don't think that people necessarily treated me bad, even though they did. But that I think a lot of people just didn't know how to act around me. I remember even from being very, very young, I've always kind of done what I've wanted to do. And it was when I was probably 7 or 8 when I started to become depressed. When I started noticing that I was really, really different from most of my peers. Okay. I I'm trying to think back in names. First grade, no. Second grade, no. Third, no. Fourth, no. Fifth grade, I remember my teacher's name, and Jimmy Sinton. That's it. That's all I remember. Um, because I didn't have friends, so I didn't memorize their names. I didn't finish high school. I was kicked out of my. I was actually kicked out of my district. Uh, that wasn't all me. There were a lot of people that told lies about me, including my brother. And one of the first things that I can remember that set me apart is I used to say my S's through my nose. So, no, I would talk like that. My brother's not. I can still do it. I didn't say my S's correctly. S. And so my mom took me to the doctor, and he proceeded to tell me that I was mentally retarded, and I was put in the special classes. Um, and what this did was reinforce what my parents would say to me: "You're dumb. You're just not very sharp. You're not the sharpest tool, are you?" And I used to remember thinking that I understood the work just fine. I just didn't want to do it. I was bored a lot in class because usually what they were talking about, I already understood. They just explain it and I got it. I just didn't want, you know, my parent, you got to get A's. I'm like, why? I understand the stuff. And they didn't understand. They didn't get it, because parents need to reinforce it. You get those A's. So, I went and got my GED when I was 17 years old. So I actually graduated before the rest of my peers, and I scored in the 98th percentile. I'm pretty smart. Sometimes too smart for my own darn good, right? And so they finally figured out, they took me out of the class because, I went to speech therapy. But because of speech therapy, I have always, that was the first time I would have to learn how to talk again, how to talk. It would happen to me 2 more times in my life. Weird, just stuff. One point I went to the dentist. They gave me a shot and made half of my tongue numb for well over 9 months. And so anyway, I know this probably feels kind of boring. Yeah. So it's just because I do this all the time doesn't make it easy. So, but I had the speech impediment, and then of course I was I was small and gangly and easy to pick on. My birthday was right at the time, so that when I went to school, everybody was a year older than me, and things like that. So I was usually the smallest kid in the class. They didn't hang, so blah 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 blah. Okay, and I get a little bit older. I get 11, 12. And by this point, we've moved out to Colorado. So I moved to Colorado when we were 9. Grew up in Utah. And I remember starting junior high school. And I was pretty excited about it. I'm like, okay, new friends. And yet it still didn't happen. And I wouldn't really have any friends in junior high. I would meet a couple of friends, some that would become, we'd hang out together. But so by the time I was in junior high, my brothers were a little bit older than me, and they had started drinking a little here and there. Right? When I was 13, the summer of 1983. Yeah, there was we had met a couple of kids that were there for the month from Texas. They were there visiting their dad, and their dad was a cop, and he had confiscated all this Jim Beam. And we drank Jim Beam all freaking summer. I don't even know if my mom knows about that. So I just always felt isolated. I never felt like I belonged anywhere. And people would notice that. People would notice that. And when they, when you're meek and shy, I was very, very shy. And I still am, which is why it's hard for me to get started on these sometimes, because I'm shy. And, stuff. So, let's just get to the point where things really started to happen. So my mom was noticing that I was depressed, and she had me start going, I'm not mad. I wouldn't be mad. I'm not going to get mad. I don't feel like being mad. If anything, I'm sad. I don't even know if I'm that. So, like I said earlier, remember that I am coming off meds. Okay. My Cymbalta, I'm cutting it down. So I just wanted to. All right. So during this time, since I didn't have friends, since I had a lot of time on my hands, I was able to people watch. And I noticed that people would, people would start to change because I would get a new attitude. And at some point in junior high, I was tired of it. I was really tired of it. So I started pushing back. And I didn't just start pushing back, I would get violent. If you pushed me, I would find something and just crack you over the fucking head. Right? Well, I was still pretty small, so that didn't work really well, and I tended to get pushed around a little bit more. But something happened when I was 13. It was called alcohol. Right? And I went from being this very shy little kid to, if you fuck with me, I will hurt you. And by the time I got to high school, it was, don't fuck with Tion. And this would be reinforced by a lot of other people, including my brother and one of his friends, Jim. This is one of the realizations that I've come to recently. Because of blocked memories. PTSD does that. Blocks memories. And it came back to me, all the lies my brother had told people, told my friends, told my family, which was the reason that I did not come back home, because he was just scared of me. And he had every right to be scared of me. Okay? There was a point there at that point when I was about 16, and I told him, I know what you did, and if I get you alone, I'm going to fuck you up. I meant it. Right? He told some pretty bad lies about me. No. So, you imagine that with my mom being an alcoholic and not being around, it was a lonely, lonely road. So when I found alcohol, there was no stopping me. You weren't going to stop me. And if you tried to stop me, I would remove you, even at that age. And by the time I got to 14, my mom got sober and, she did a little prevention on me and made me realize that I was an alcoholic too. And at the time, it really pissed me the fuck off. Because even then, I was tired of people calling me names. And I would tell her, stop calling me names. But you're an alcoholic. Stop calling me names. And guess what? I was right. She wasn't supposed to call me an alcoholic. It says it right there in the big book. See, here's the thing. Growing up, I was always fucking right. And I knew it. But people just didn't want to listen to me. So I had to watch. And now I'm 52 years old, and people are just a bunch of lemmings, man. So for as long as I can remember, I've dealt with depression. I remember sitting in my 5th grade class, fantasizing, not doing my homework, not doing my work. I was fantasizing about killing my fellow classmates. Yeah. Thank God I wasn't smart enough to follow through on that stuff. Thank God I was too young. But I thought of it because of all the bullying, because of the way I've been treated all my life. And as an adult, it wouldn't get any better. It would get worse. See, the stigma. See, when people call you something and then put you in a place, you become that thing. Okay? And at the age of 14, when my parents decided to put me away, I already felt ignored. And then when I told them why I was so angry, and this was the reason I was angry, and I told them, I've been taking care of your kids for years, and now you're coming back in and you want to act like your parents, and you're not. And I confronted them, and I told them how bad they were and how horrible they were, and that they didn't even belong together. They didn't like that. I was right. A year later, they got divorced. Right? But because my brother was a big fucking pussy, and he's twice as big as me. At that age, he could just, hey. But when people get drunk, they get dangerous, and I start punching holes in the walls. I was out of control. I was. But I was out of control because nobody would listen to me. I was out of control because at the age of 14, I was dealing with an obsession that was beyond me. Okay? And they wouldn't let me have my cigarettes. I was so pissed. I was so pissed. Well, I remember being in Mount Airy Psychiatric Center. We go downstairs, go eat, right? This was the 80s. People were smoking everywhere, right? And if you had a certain level, then you could go down there and eat with a staff member, okay? Oh, I'm going to go get another Jello. Okay. I grabbed like 2-3 cigarettes on the way. I just grabbed some refries, go up to the room and turn on my blow dryer because I had really long hair. I had long curly hair, and I blow dried it, turned it into an afro. Yeah. Ooh, bad ass, man. My fro was badass. But I used to turn on my hair dryer, turn on the shower, let that motherfucker up. Can't stop me. Can't stop me. I would find a way. I know this probably isn't into getting into everything everybody wants, but it all starts to add up. Right? So when I was 14, this skinny little white boy who didn't know. The only thing he knew about other ethnicities were all the racist jokes that my family used to tell. That's the only thing I knew. And I never felt right about I never laughed with them. I didn't think they were funny. I just thought they were assholes. I did. And at one point, okay, so my parents, I had to go from living in white suburbia to learning how to deal with Crips and Bloods and gang members and people that were a lot more dangerous than me. And instead of me getting help, instead of anything getting better, I would get worse. I would become a better criminal. Yeah, my freaking moms. and I wouldn't go back home. I got emancipated at 17. By the time I was 18, I was living on Skid Row. Okay. I would get sober, but it would be difficult. It would be difficult. I still had my anger. And after a while, I stopped going to AA, and that anger really started coming back. Because I was being set off on multiple fronts. And I cannot remember really a time where I was okay with working. This would turn me into one of the worst employees ever. I'm not a very good employee. I just feel locked up. And I can't handle it. I feel like my freedom's being taken away from me without my say so. And I don't like that. I don't. I hate waiting on people. He said you're going to be here at 2:15. It's 2:30. Okay. I'm moving on. I ain't going to wait for you. So it wasn't until and I would have depression and my anger, and when I went back out, there was 3 or 4 times I almost died. And I remember one time I didn't know I was passing stones, but I went down to about 130 pounds. I lost a lot of weight, and I remember a lot of it. And my mom was checking on me every hour to make sure I was still alive. And that was because I was doing so much drinking and not taking care of myself that it nearly killed me on that. And of course, once I started feeling better, I went back out. It wasn't until I had about 1.5 years, 2 years of sobriety this next time. And everything came flooding back. Not everything, but 70% of it came flooding back. Something I thought I had dealt with, but I hadn't. And I would have to take everything that I knew. And at that point, I kind of know what I know now too. I was a drug and alcohol counselor. I was a lot of things, and I have a lot of knowledge. I've been going to therapy for fucking 40 years. So, battery level low. I'm talking too much. All right, that's all right. I can fix that. It's gonna mess with the camera a little bit, but that's all right. Oh, motherfucker. All right, camera, come on. Oh, that'd be why. You too. Thank you. Anyway, I just that's the frustration that I go through. Like, I have all this stuff that's going on, and I know I can share it, but I can't seem to access it. And that's why I'm getting off those meds, because it's making me feel unsatisfied. I can't express what it is that I want to express. And I can feel it, and it drives me a little crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up on this and kind of wrap it up because it's Sunday and I ain't got nothing to do. I have a lot to do, but I ain't going to do it. Um, but everything would come back and I'd have my first anxiety attack. And I would feel so shameful. And weak. I was upset. Because, see, this stuff affects a lot of different things. As a man, and the fact that it's hard for me to work fucks with my self esteem bad. And then when other people reinforce it, well, he's lazy and did it, and I am not lazy. Right? Just because I still have my pajamas on doesn't mean I'm not doing stuff. And they're not pajamas, they're drumming pants. I need to start drumming again. I need to do something. And I would have to take everything I knew, everything inside of me, and I would have to direct it towards it. And it was hard. And I went back to, when I just started loving myself, I went immediately back to this piece of shit Dion. The 12 steps would not work. 12 steps wouldn't work. I had to have more. I needed therapy. I needed help from professionals, the right professionals. And it took me a while to find those right professionals. But I went through all that, so you don't have to. Right? Mental health is not something to fuck around with. And if you are more than 6 months sober and you are still feeling very, very squirrely, please reach out to your primary care physician. Because if it wasn't for my wife and the love of my wife, I would have ended my life at that point. Because it was the only thing I had to live for. My kids didn't want to be around me. I was having these flashbacks about my family, and everybody was the fucking enemy. Somebody would say something, and I would just start shaking. And I would be transported back to this world that I just don't live in anymore. And that's what I would call intrusive thoughts. And it would feel like I was going through it again and again and again, and it wouldn't stop. And my brain wouldn't stop, and the world wouldn't stop. And then the world was way too fucking big. How does all this work? And I would go nuts because my brain just would not shut the fuck up. And I don't want to tell people that I love them, but it would come out, fuck you. And I wouldn't be able to control it. It's like a form of Tourette's, man. And the more somebody would try and calm me down, or the more somebody would try and help me, the angrier I would get. And thank God for the grace of God. Because without it, I wouldn't have anything right now. And I'm, I'm getting misty eyed because I'm thinking of all the people out there that are going through it needlessly. There's help. There's a lot of help. Tired of seeing people die because of lack of encouragement. And it probably doesn't help that, I'm not off my meds. So, but I'm kind of like this on Sundays anyway. So, well, that was 30 minutes of me really saying nothing. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I love you. Peace out and have a day.